What if I told you you could take a 40-hour course, get an industry certification, and immediately be qualified to walk into thousands of job sites across the country that pay $25 to $35 an hour? Give me the next 10 minutes and I'll explain what I'm talking about. Thanks for tuning in to Career Compass Media. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. So let's talk about this industry certification. It's called the 40-hour HazWhopper. Now, no, it's got nothing to do with the new Burger King burger, and it's not what happens after Cartman eats a bucket of KFC. HazWhopper stands for Hazardous Waste Operations and Emergency Response, and it's actually a federally mandated certification by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So you can find information on the HazWhopper standard by going to OSHA.gov and clicking on the standards link and finding general industry standards. When you get to the general industry standards, you can scroll down to 1910-120. And there it is, right in the Code of Federal Regulation, Hazardous Waste Operations and Emergency Response. So the scope of this covers every type of operation for hazardous waste, including potential releases of hazardous materials or hazardous waste. So that basically means cleanup operations that are run by a government body, things that are like on the national priorities list, really your federally run cleanup sites. If you have corrective actions governed by what's called the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, that basically has to do with hazardous materials and hazardous wastes. Voluntary cleanup operations, you have operations involving hazardous waste at what's called TSD facilities, which is going to be your hazardous waste incinerators, landfills, those types of things. And then you have the catch-all, and this is really kind of the golden ticket, emergency response operations for releases of or substantial threats of releases of hazardous substances without regard to location of the hazard. So when you think of how this could apply to a factory that has a number of bulk above ground storage tanks. This could be maybe a cleanup crew that goes up and down the highway, and as there's a highway accident that happens to have a fuel tank or a tanker truck that tips over, you could be part of a cleanup crew that cleans up this type of an accident scene. It could be something as simple as a property transaction where somebody has buried a whole bunch of waste on site and someone has to dig that up and essentially dispose of it properly before that property transaction can take place. Essentially what the trade work is being some type of environmental technician. So you might be asking yourself how exactly I know about the HazWhopper standard and also what it's like to be an environmental technician. And that's because I actually spent 15 years in this particular trade or this particular specialty area. And it all started, quite honestly, with me getting my HazWhopper certification. From there, I was able to evolve into different things like asbestos inspecting, managing radiation safety, and those types of things. But quite honestly, the door that opened up the environmental trade to me was this 40-hour HazWhopper certification. And if you're curious about what a hazmat technician makes, you can go to Indeed or Glassdoor and just type in hazmat technician, just like I've done here on the screen. You can see here's an example. This one happens to be about $24 to $26 an hour, and you can see the qualifications. Must have current hazardous waste certification. That's the hazardous waste operations and emergency response certification that I'm talking about here. You can go to some of the big players like Clean Harbors or Safety Clean that basically manage hazardous waste as part of their business. It's their day-to-day operations. This example that I'm showing here happens to be for a facility technician in Massachusetts. And as you can see, there's no degree required. Essentially, it's a hazardous waste operation. So by law, you have to have a HazWhopper certification. And you can see this is an entry-level position, and it starts anywhere from $17 and goes all the way up to $34.62. So there's a lot of variety, everything from field tech work, environmental cleanup that's basically like on the road, to facility work that you see at a treatment, storage, and disposal facility. So there's a lot of operations out there that essentially need environmental technicians. So you might be wondering, what exactly do you learn as a 40-hour HazWhopper certified person? Well, there is going to be a little bit of science involved. There's going to be a little toxicology involved. But really what it is, it's a lot of compliance and regulation on how to properly put on and take off personal protective equipment, how to recognize and evaluate hazards, how to properly clean up a job site, how to monitor that job site to make sure that you're not getting overexposed, how to respond to emergencies. And so there are a number of different protocols that you will learn through this particular certification. And again, a lot of just practical application of how to manage chemicals, good chemical hygiene, good health and safety practices that really can cross over to a number of different industries, not just the cleanup industry. other great benefits about having a 40-hour HAZWOPER certification is, quite honestly, once you complete that 40 hours and you get that certificate in hand, you're immediately job eligible. A lot of these jobs, and again, just go on Indeed, go on Glassdoor, and just look at some of the qualifications. Again, they're going to be more the entry-level jobs. They might be some more of the physical labor jobs. But at the end of the day, if you're making 25 to 30 bucks an hour and you're young enough and you're not really tied down and you're really not sure what maybe you want to do with the next 20 years of your life, well, for sure the next 5 or 10, you could be making some really pretty good money, doing a lot of good in your community for the environment by having this one certification. Another big benefit to this particular certification is that there is an obvious career ladder in place. And what I mean by that is, getting on the job site with one certification might allow you to do maybe kind of the shovel work, maybe the loading the drums, maybe running the forklift. As you move into the field and start understanding the nuances and the different types of cleanup and remediation that are out there, you could get into different types of inspection work. There's industrial hygiene technicians to where they're maybe doing noise audits in factories. There's asbestos and lead sampling, where essentially all you're doing is you're just taking samples and sending them to a lab prior to actual work taking place. There's just a number of different ways a career can go by starting with this one certification. The credibility is probably the biggest thing, though. All of these sites, when you think about it, all the different factories that are out there, all of the different cleanup sites, all of the different construction sites, all of the gas stations, all of the food processing locations that have ammonia tanks and those types of things, the chemical industry in our country is absolutely massive. Having this certification gives you instant credibility that you meet the minimum requirements and understand the hazards involved to work at those particular job sites. And one of the things that really, drove me to do this particular video here and give this type of career advice to those who maybe aren't sure what it is that they're wanting to do. I've been seeing so many videos out there on, the importance of trades and how much you can make and all these high-paying trade jobs, and I 100% agree with that. This is something that I can speak to from personal experience. I know about this field. It's a very rewarding field. It's a type of work that matters to the public health. It matters to your community. You're helping the environment. You're helping keep a company in compliance. You're mitigating risk. Also, since it's very much focused on health and safety, that you're keeping your peers and your buddies safe as well. And so there's just a lot of gratitude that goes into this type of work, and it's just kind of that pride that you can have knowing that your work and your effort is not only keeping yourself safe, but it's keeping your community safe and your coworkers safe as well. So a lot of great things go into being an environmental technician. If you're out there wondering, what should I do? What are some opportunities? I don't want to go to a 4-year degree program. I don't maybe want to dive into some of the direct trades like carpentry or those types of things. Again, I would challenge you to dive into maybe a job search. Go on to Indeed or any other job engine, or maybe look at some of the big environmental consulting companies out there, or environmental management companies like Waste Management, Clean Harbors, and really take a look at what it takes to become an environmental specialist or an environmental technician. Honestly, high school diploma, good physical condition. It is sometimes a labor-intensive work, but really needing a hazmat certification like the Hazardous Waste Operation and Emergency Response certification is literally that one class that can get you in, open the door to an entire career with a whole lot of career flexibility. So hopefully you enjoyed this information. Again, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Career Compass Media.